Hello and good morning. We're in week 7-2. We should have a test on chapter 6, I'm thinking this weekend. Okay? Let's take a look here. Today is 12/6. Are you ready for Christmas? Alright, well, what is a progressive tax? Progressive is where you're taxed at different levels in a tax bracket. So you might be charged or taxed to a certain amount, let's say $10,000, and then you go to the next level, 10,001, to say 20,000, and you get different tax rates. Okay, this might be 5%, this might be 7%. So as your money spills over, the amount that spills into that bracket is what you pay. Okay, so like if you were at 15,000, you would pay 10,000. Let's say you make $15,000 a year, which is, can't live on that. So let's say 15,000 a year. So you would be charged 10,000 at 5%, and then 5,000 that spills into this level would be taxed at 7%. Okay? That's progressive. A straight tax is like a sales tax. Nellis County, 7%. Gross pay. Gross pay is before taxes. Okay? It's before everything, before any deductions. Take-home pay is your net pay, what you actually can spend. Let's go to example on page 350. Open your book. Copy all of this down. Okay, well, you're not going to be happy with all of this, so you make $469. You have to pay 6.2% in Social Security tax, and Medicare is 0.45%. So you got to figure that out. So you're going to take 469.75 times, I'm going to move this over, 0.062, you get an answer. Then you got to multiply this same amount times 0.0045 to Medicare. Multiply, get an answer. Then you got to add up your retirement, your federal, your state, your disability in case you can't work, and your medical and dental. You got to add all this up. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then you got to subtract it from this amount to get your net pay. Okay, make sure you check your answers. Let's go to example 2. Your biweekly pay. Biweekly is every 2 weeks. There's 52 weeks in a year. So that means there's 26. You got to divide by 2. There's 26 payments or checks. Your federal is 1,000. So you got to take 26 times 1,000. And your state tax is 280. So 26 times 280. Find your yearly amount that you pay for federal and state. You got to add these two up. A plus B, you get your answer. That's how you do that. Today I want you to do 1 through 6. Make sure you paraphrase the question. Some of you are not doing that. Okay. And show me some work and check your answers. Okay. Let's turn our attention now to 7th period. College algebra. Find the inverse function. Okay, well, let's see if we can do that. Well, remember, to do the inverse, you let y equal the function. Then you switch the x's and the y's. Like that. Switch them. And then you got to solve for y. Now, to solve for y, I would multiply So I would get y minus 2 times x is equal to 5. You could put a 1 under here and cross multiply. And then I would go ahead and divide by x. So I would say y minus 2 is equal to 5 over x. And then I would add 2 and get my answer. So it's going to be 5 over x minus 2 is the inverse function, and you write it like this. Okay? What are the steps? Well, first you let the function equal y. Then you switch the x's and y's, and then you solve for y. And that's the inverse. So if your graph looks like this, the inverse would look like that. It's around a 45-degree angle or line. Okay? Copy this one down. Open your book to page 223. It says which one is an inverse. In order to be an inverse, like if this is an inverse of this, then you would end up with something called an identity function. So what we're going to do is check it. We're going to take this right here and set it equal, or plug it into that x right here. So we're going to say 5 over x minus 2 over 5 minus 2. And if we end up with x, it's an identity function. So here, I'm going to put a 1 under here. My least common denominator is 5, so I'm going to multiply by 5. So I'm going to get 5 divided by x minus 2 minus 10 all over 5. So I'm going to get 5 divided by x minus 12 over 5. And if it's division, you got to flip it. So it's 5 over 1 times 5 over x minus 12. And if you do that, you're going to get 25 over x minus 12, not x. So this is not an identity function or inverse function. Let's try this one. We're going to take this and plug it into that. So we're going to say 5 over, instead of the x, we're going to use 5 over x plus 2 minus 2. Okay, right there. So we're going to go ahead and try to do this here. When you do this, this cancels. So you're going to get 5 divided by 5 over x. You're going to flip it and get 5 times x over 5. The 5's cancel. You end up with x. That is the inverse function, and that is how you work that problem. Okay? How do you write the inverse of this? You switch them. So you're going to say instead of 2, 4, you're going to say 4, 2. 6, 3. Okay, so the inverse, you switch the x and the y. All right, the horizontal line test means that if you have a function like this, and you do a horizontal line, and it hits only one point, then it is considered to be, or considered to have an inverse. If you take a parabola like that, and you do the horizontal line test, it hits 2. There's no inverse function for a parabola because it hits 2 points. This one right here, find the inverse. Well, the inverse, you're going to first set y equal to this. Just like that. You're going to switch the x and the y. X equals the square root of 2y minus 3. You're going to solve this equation by squaring. So you're going to get x squared equals 2y minus 3. And now you can do the rest probably in your head. You're going to move the 3. So you're going to get x squared plus 3 divided by 2 is equal to y. And that's your inverse function, which equals f of -1 and x. Here's your work for today. If you need some help, make sure you ask. Okay? All right. Have a good morning.